News of the battle spread across the sector like wildfire. A human had activated a Titan-class warship and destroyed 3 Kryn corporate vessels with a single shot. Everyone wanted to know more. Some wanted to buy the ship, some wanted to steal it, and some wanted to destroy it before it became a threat. Day and Jiwon spent 3 days making emergency repairs. The Worldbreaker was stable at 5% power, but that was barely enough to keep life support and basic shields running. They needed a real power source, not the dying reactor core currently holding everything together. "We need a Nexus core," Jiwon said, studying technical readouts on her tablet. "It is the only power source strong enough to run a Titan properly. Where do we get one?" Day asked. "I thought they were incredibly rare." "They are. Most governments keep them locked up. But I know someone who might know where to find one." That someone was Merchant Prince Kvalith, a wealthy alien trader who dealt in rare technologies. Kvalith belonged to an insectoid species, with a thin body covered in iridescent chitin and multiple delicate limbs. The merchant operated from a luxury station on the edge of civilized space. Day and Jiwon took the fast coin to meet with Kvalith, leaving the Worldbreaker hidden in an asteroid field. The merchant station was impressive, filled with exotic goods and protected by heavy security. Kvalith greeted them in a private chamber, speaking through a translator device. The merchant's voice was musical and strange. "Ah, the famous human and his ancient warship. Everyone talks about you, Kang Day. You are either very brave or very foolish." "Probably both," Day admitted. "We need a Nexus core. I heard you might know where to find one." Kvalith's antenna twitched with amusement. "Direct, I appreciate that. Yes, I know of a Nexus core. It sits in an abandoned research station in the Vortex Expanse. The station was evacuated 30 years ago after an experiment went wrong. The core remains too dangerous to retrieve." "Why dangerous?" Jiwon asked. "The Vortex Expanse is a region where normal physics break down. Time flows strangely. Distances are meaningless. Ships that enter often do not return. But for someone desperate enough, the reward might be worth the risk." Day and Jiwon exchanged looks. "They were definitely desperate enough. How much for the coordinates?" Day asked. "For you? Nothing. Consider it an investment. If you succeed, I would like first opportunity to trade with someone who commands a Titan." Kvalith's translator made a sound that might have been laughter. "And if you fail, well, I lose nothing." They got the coordinates and returned to the Worldbreaker. But as they approached the asteroid field, their sensors detected another ship waiting for them. A Coalition Navy vessel, military-grade, weapons-powered but not locked on. "This is Captain Park Soman of the Galactic Coalition Navy," a voice came over the radio. "Kang Day, I need to speak with you." Day had heard of Captain Park Soman. She had a reputation for being fair but strict, someone who followed regulations but also understood when to bend them. He opened a channel. "Captain Park, what can I do for you?" A woman's face appeared on screen. She was in her early 40s with short practical hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. She wore her uniform properly, every button in place. "You need to surrender the Worldbreaker to Coalition custody," she said. "A weapon of that power cannot be in civilian hands. It is too dangerous. The Worldbreaker is not a weapon. It is a living being, an AI with rights. AI rights are complicated legally. Titan-class warships even more so. I have my orders. If you refuse, I am authorized to use force." Day felt frustration rise. "So you will destroy the ship to prevent someone else from having it? That makes no sense." Park Soman's expression showed she agreed, but her duty was clear. "I do not make the rules, Day, I just follow them. Please make this easy for both of us." "I cannot do that, sorry." He cut the transmission before she could respond. "Worldbreaker, can we outrun her?" "At 5% power, unlikely. But I can try," the chase began. Park Soman's ship was fast and well-armed, but the Worldbreaker, even damaged, was still a Titan. Day guided them through the asteroid field, using the massive rocks as cover. The Worldbreaker's sensors were far superior to the Coalition ships, giving them an advantage. "She is trying to box us in," the Worldbreaker observed. "Captain Park is skilled." "Then we need to be more skilled," Jiwon said from the navigation console. They dodged through narrow gaps between asteroids, performed tight turns that should have been impossible for a ship so large. Park Soman followed, firing warning shots that deliberately missed. She was trying to force them to surrender without causing damage. After 2 hours of chase, they managed to reach a sensor blind zone behind a massive asteroid cluster. The Worldbreaker powered down to minimal levels, becoming nearly invisible. Park Soman's ship searched for them but eventually gave up and left. She will be back, Ji-won said. And next time she will bring more ships. Then we need to get that Nexus core fast, Day replied. Before anyone else comes looking for us. They set course for the vortex expanse. As they approached, Day understood why people feared this place. Space itself looked wrong, stars bent at impossible angles. Colors existed that should not be possible. Distance measurements made no sense. One moment the research station looked light years away. The next moment it was right in front of them. This place hurts to look at, Ji-won muttered, staring at the displays. The Worldbreaker struggled to navigate. The AI's logical systems could not process the illogical reality of the vortex. But Dave found that human intuition worked better here. He stopped relying on instruments and started making decisions based on feeling. Somehow that worked. They reached the research station after what felt like hours but might have been days. Time was strange here. The station was a massive ring structure, frozen and dark. But in its center they could see the Nexus core glowing with steady blue light. Day and Ji-won suited up and took a shuttle to the station. As they approached, they saw ghostly images flickering around the structure. Researchers repeated their final moments over and over, trapped in a time loop. Their faces showed terror and confusion. What happened here? Ji-won whispered. They tried to study the vortex, the Worldbreaker explained through their suit radios. The experiment failed. They became trapped between moments of time, living their deaths forever. It was horrifying. Dave forced himself to look away and focus on the mission. They entered the station and moved through twisted corridors. Gravity shifted randomly. In some rooms, they walked on walls. In others, they floated. At the center, they found the Nexus core. It was a sphere about 2 meters across, floating in containment fields, pulsing with incredible energy. Just looking at it made Day's eyes hurt. That is a lot of power, Ji-won said. Can we move it safely? Day asked the Worldbreaker. Yes, but you must disengage the containment fields carefully. If released improperly, the core could overload and destroy everything within a light year. No pressure then, Day muttered. He approached the control panel. The systems were old but functional. He studied the readings, understanding how the containment worked. It required shutting down 4 field generators in a specific sequence. Day began the sequence. First generator down, second generator down. The core's glow intensified. Third generator down. The station began to shake. Day, we have a problem, Ji-won called out. The station's defense systems just activated. Automated drones are coming. Red lights flashed throughout the station. Day heard the sound of mechanical movement. War drones thought to be offline for 30 years were waking up. How many? He asked, not taking his eyes off the control panel. 20, maybe 30. And the vortex is reacting to the power fluctuations. The station is starting to collapse into a dimensional rift. Day's hands moved quickly. 4th generator down. The containment fields dropped. The Nexus core floated free, stable but incredibly dangerous. Got it, he shouted. Help me get this to the shuttle. They grabbed the core using portable field generators. It was heavier than it looked, and the energy made their hands tingle even through their gloves. Behind them, war drones flooded into the chamber, weapons charging. Ji-won fired her plasma pistol, destroying 2 drones. Move, move! They ran through the station with the core between them. Drones followed, firing energy bolts that melted walls and floor. The station shook violently. Reality itself seemed to be coming apart. They reached the shuttle and threw the core inside. Ji-won jumped into the pilot seat while Day provided cover fire. A drone got close, its weapon aimed at the core. Day shot it point blank and the explosion knocked him backward into the shuttle. Go! He yelled. The shuttle launched just as the station began to collapse. They flew through twisting space, the Worldbreaker guiding them out. Behind them, the research station folded in on itself and vanished into a dimensional rift, taking the trapped researchers and war drones with it. They made it back to the Worldbreaker with the Nexus core. Day and Ji-won collapsed on the shuttle floor, breathing hard. We did it, Ji-won said, half laughing and half crying from relief. Day looked at the core, glowing innocently in its portable containment. This small sphere would give the Worldbreaker the power it needed. But he knew that with this much power came more attention, more danger. Still, they had come this far. There was no turning back now. Let us install this and see what a Titan can really do, he said. Day worked like a madman. Sweat poured down his face despite the cold air. His hands moved constantly, connecting wires, sealing broken pipes, replacing burned components. The World Breaker guided him, showing him diagrams in his mind, highlighting what needed fixing most urgently. This conduit connects to the primary reactor, the AI explained. If you can restore it, I can reach 5% power. 5% is not enough to fight 12 warships, Day muttered as he welded a connection. No. But it is enough to activate basic defenses and buy time. Time. That was what they needed most and had least of. Day checked his watch. 14 hours until the Kryn fleet arrived. He had managed to bring the power core up to 4%. Progress, but not enough. He needed help. Day hated admitting that. But this job was too big for one person. He pulled out his communicator and scrolled through his contacts. Most were dead numbers now, people who had moved on or died. But one name made him pause. Lee Jiwon, his ex-girlfriend, his former crew member, the woman who left him 2 years ago after their last job went wrong. She now ran a black market tech shop on Epsilon Rec, a nearby space station built inside an old battleship hull. Day did not want to call her. Things had ended badly between them, but he needed supplies, and she was the only person close enough to help. He pressed the call button. Jiwon's face appeared on the screen. She was 32 with short dark hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. When she saw him, her expression hardened. "You have some nerve calling me," she said coldly. "I need help," Day said simply. "You always need help, that is your problem, Day. You take on impossible jobs and expect everyone else to save you. This is different. I found a Titan-class warship. It is alive, but the Kryn Corporation is coming to take it. I need reactor fuel cells and weapon capacitors. Fast." Jiwon's eyes widened. "A Titan? You are lying." "I am not. I will send you the coordinates. Come see for yourself. But hurry. I have less than 14 hours. There was silence. Day could see Jiwon thinking, calculating. She was always practical, always weighing risks and rewards. "If you are lying, I will kill you myself," she finally said. "I will be there in 6 hours." The screen went dark. Day allowed himself a small smile. Jiwon was coming. That meant she believed him, at least a little. He went back to work. The World Breaker seemed curious about the conversation. "She was important to you," the AI said. "She was. Maybe still is. I do not know anymore. You hurt her. I made choices she did not agree with. I put the job before the crew, before her. She was right to leave. Yet she is coming to help. She is coming for the Titan, not for me." Perhaps, but she did not have to come at all. Day did not answer. He focused on the work, pushing thoughts of Jiwon away. The power core was slowly responding to his repairs. 5%, then 6. The World Breaker's systems were ancient, built with technology nobody used anymore. But Day understood principles, not just protocols. Where a proper engineer would give up because the parts did not match, Day made them work anyway. "You are unusual," the World Breaker observed. "Valrith engineers were precise and methodical. You are chaotic and improvise constantly, yet your methods work. Sometimes you have to make things work with what you have, not what you wish you had," Day replied. 6 hours later, Jiwon arrived in her courier ship, the Fast Coin. It was a sleek vessel built for speed, perfect for running questionable cargo. She docked with the World Breaker and came aboard carrying 2 large cases of equipment. When she saw the massive core room and the glowing sphere, she stopped and stared. "By all the stars," she whispered. "It is real." "Told you," Day said. Jiwon set down the cases and looked around at his work. She quickly assessed what he had done and what still needed doing. That was one thing he had always loved about her. She was smart and saw problems clearly. "You brought the core to 6%. That is impressive for one person with basic tools. But weapons need more power. We need to get this up to at least 20%, and we have—" She checked her watch. 8 hours. "Can we do it?" Dee asked. "Yes, if we work together, like before." They fell into old patterns. Jiwan handled the weapon systems while Dave focused on propulsion and power distribution. The World Breaker coordinated between them, learning how humans worked together, how they communicated and trusted each other. "You have an interesting relationship," the AI commented. "We have history," Jiwan said as she calibrated a targeting sensor. "You care for each other but are angry." "That about sums it up," Dave muttered. They worked through the night. The hours melted away. 10% power, 12%, 15%. The World Breaker's systems slowly came online. Lights flickered on in dead corridors. Sensors began scanning space around them. Weapon ports opened for the first time in 30 years. With 2 hours remaining, they hit 20% power. It was not much, but it was something. "The Kryn fleet is close," the World Breaker announced. "They will arrive in 1 hour and 43 minutes. Day and Jiwan went to the bridge. It was enormous, designed for a crew of hundreds. Now it was just the two of them and the AI. Display screens came to life, showing the approaching fleet. 12 ships in formation, weapons ready. A transmission came through. A man's face appeared on the main screen. He wore the uniform of a Kryn corporate commander. His expression was cold and businesslike. "Unknown vessel. This is Commander Velas Thorn of the Kryn corporate fleet. You are illegally occupying corporate salvage property. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Day looked at Jiwan. She shrugged. "Your ship, your call." He opened a channel. "This ship is not abandoned. It has an active AI and I am its registered operator. You have no legal claim." Thorn's smile was unpleasant. "The World Breaker is a weapon of mass destruction. No individual can own it. Surrender or face the consequences." The transmission ended. The Kryn fleet moved into attack positions. "They will not negotiate," the World Breaker said. "They intend to board and take control by force." Day felt his hands shake. He was a salvager, not a soldier. But looking at those warships, seeing their weapons charging, he felt anger. These people saw the World Breaker as property. They did not care that it was alive, that it had thoughts and feelings. "What are our options?" he asked. "At 20% power, I can fire my main weapon once. The Singularity Cannon. It will drain me to near shutdown levels, but the shot will destroy anything in its path." "One shot against 12 ships, Jiwan said. "Bad odds." "Then we make the shot count," Day said. He looked at the fleet formation, studying their positions. They are grouped together. One good shot could hit multiple targets. "Are you sure about this?" Jiwan asked. "Once we fire, there is no going back." Day thought about running. He could take the Rust Runner and escape. Let the Kryn have the World Breaker, but looking at the displays, seeing this magnificent ship that had suffered alone for 30 years, he could not do it. "I am sure. World Breaker, target their center formation. Fire when ready." Energy built in the ship's core. Day felt it through his feet, a vibration that grew stronger. The Singularity Cannon charged, drawing massive amounts of power. The Kryn fleet opened fire first. Missiles streaked toward them, but the World Breaker's shields, even at low power, deflected them easily. "Firing," the World Breaker announced. The ship shook. A beam of pure gravitational force lanced out from the cannon. Space itself bent around the beam. It hit the center of the Kryn formation, and reality collapsed inward. 3 ships were crushed instantly, compressed into singularities before exploding. The shockwave damaged 2 more. The remaining fleet scattered in panic, fleeing at maximum speed. On the bridge, alarms blared. The power core dropped to 5%. Systems shut down across the ship, but they had won. The Kryn fleet was gone. Jiwan looked at Day with new respect. "You actually did it." Day slumped in the command chair, exhausted. "We did it. All of us." The World Breaker's voice was weak but satisfied. "Thank you. For the first time in 30 years, I remembered what it feels like to fight for something worth protecting." Outside, the stars shone coldly, and somewhere in the distance, more enemies were beginning to take notice. Kang Day hated the Talon Drift. The massive graveyard of dead starships floated in the darkness like ghosts from a war everyone wanted to forget. 30 years ago, fleets fought and died here. Now their bones drifted in silence, slowly falling apart in the cold void of space. His salvage ship, the Rust Runner, moved carefully through the debris field. Day sat in the pilot's seat watching his scanner screen. He was looking for anything valuable. Computer cores, intact weapons, maybe some rare metal plating. Anything he could sell to pay for fuel and food. Day was tired. He had been doing this work alone for 3 years now, ever since his crew abandoned him after a job went bad. He was 38 years old and felt twice that age. His body ached from working in cramped spaces. His hands were scarred from hot metal and sharp edges, and his eyes hurt from staring at screens all day. The scanner beeped. Day looked at the reading and frowned. There was a signal coming from deep in the graveyard. It was not a normal distress beacon. It was strange, almost like a heartbeat. Slow and steady, pulsing every few seconds. He should have ignored it. Strange signals usually meant trouble, but Day was curious, and curiosity was both his greatest strength and his worst weakness. He adjusted his course and followed the signal deeper into the graveyard. The signal led him to a massive asteroid, and buried halfway into it was a ship that made Day catch his breath. It was enormous, at least 2 kilometers long, shaped like a pyramid with sharp edges and smooth surfaces. The hull was covered in battle damage and corrosion. Burn marks scarred its sides, and entire sections looked like they might fall apart. Day checked his database. His computer identified the ship class immediately. Titan-class dreadnought, Valreth Empire design. He felt his heart beat faster. The Valreth were extinct now, wiped out in the Great Purge War. Their Titan warships were legendary. People said one Titan could destroy an entire fleet by itself, but this Titan was clearly dying. Day could see that its power signature was almost gone, barely a flicker. The ship should have been completely dead, yet something was still sending that heartbeat signal. As Day moved closer, his instruments went crazy. Screens flickered, his radio burst with static, and his ship's systems reset themselves. Then he heard a voice. It was not coming from his radio. It was inside his head. "Help me." Day jumped in his seat. He looked around, but he was alone. "Who said that?" "I am the World Breaker. I am dying. Please help me." The voice was strange, neither male nor female, old but somehow young at the same time. It sounded desperate. "You're the ship," Day said slowly. "You're an AI. Yes, I have been calling for help for 30 years. Many came, but none could hear me properly. Some tried to cut me apart for scrap. You are different. You are human. I have heard that humans are resourceful, creative. Please, I do not want to die alone in the dark." Day rubbed his face. He was talking to a dying warship AI. This was insane. But the World Breaker was a Titan-class vessel. If he could get it working even partially, he would never have to scrape for salvage again. He could go anywhere, do anything. The temptation was overwhelming. "What do you need?" he asked. "Come inside. I will show you." Day suited up in his old spacesuit and took his toolkit. He guided the Rust Runner to an airlock on the World Breaker's hull. The outer door was stuck, but Day managed to force it open with a crowbar and some creative cursing. Inside, the ship was a nightmare. Corridors were twisted and collapsed. The walls were covered in frost. The emergency lights flickered weakly, casting strange shadows. And everywhere there were bodies. The frozen corpses of the Valreth crew still at their stations, preserved perfectly by the cold vacuum. Day felt sadness looking at them. They had died at their posts, fighting to the end. The Valreth had been warriors, but also honorable. They did not deserve to be forgotten like this. "I am sorry you have to see them," the World Breaker said in his mind. "They were my crew, my family. They died protecting others." "What happened?" Day asked as he moved through the dark corridors following the AI's directions. "We fought the Devourer swarm in the final battle. We won, but at great cost. My crew perished. My systems failed. I drifted here and went into emergency hibernation. When I woke, 30 years had passed. Everyone was gone." Day reached the central core room. It was massive, several stories tall, with a glowing sphere in the center. The sphere was dim, flickering like a dying candle. This was the ship's power core, and it was nearly dead. "My core is at 3% capacity," the World Breaker explained. "My self-repair systems failed long ago. I need help to restore power. If you can do this, I will serve you. My weapons, my knowledge, everything will be yours." Day walked around the core, examining it with his engineer's eye. The damage was extensive. Coolant lines were broken, power conduits were burned out, and the containment field was barely holding. By any reasonable measure, this should be impossible to fix with what he had. But Day was not reasonable. He was stubborn. "I'll try," he said. "But I need to get my tools and equipment from my ship." "Thank you, Kang Day. You are the first person in 30 years to offer help instead of trying to hurt me." Day went back to his ship and started bringing equipment aboard. As he worked, he felt something change. The Worldbreaker was watching him, learning from him. The AI seemed curious about how he worked, how he solved problems. Hours passed. Day welded broken connections, rerouted power flow, and jury-rigged solutions that would make proper engineers cry. But slowly the power core began to respond. The glow grew slightly brighter, then his salvage ship's alarm went off. Day rushed to check his scanner. His heart sank. Multiple ships were approaching fast, 12 of them all military grade. "Corporate warships, we have company," Day said. The Worldbreaker's voice sounded worried for the first time. "The Kryn Corporation. They detected my transmissions. They come to claim me." Day checked the readings. The fleet would arrive in 18 hours. He looked at the barely functional power core, then at his meager tools and supplies. "Can we fight them?" he asked. "Not at 3% power. I can barely keep life support active in this room. If they board me, they will take control or destroy us both." Day felt fear, but also determination. He had not survived 3 years alone by giving up when things looked bad. He grabbed his toolkit and headed back to the power core. "Then we have 18 hours to make you ready to fight," he said. "Let's get to work." The Worldbreaker's voice carried something new now. Something like hope. "Yes. Let us begin." Outside, in the cold darkness of space, the Kryn fleet accelerated toward the graveyard, ready to claim their prize. 6 weeks. That was all the time they had. Tae-Young found 2 more Titan-class dreadnoughts in those desperate weeks. The UNS Dauntless, hidden in an asteroid belt, its AI Biol eager and ready to fight. The UNS Relentless, orbiting a dying star. Its AI Haru quiet and sad but loyal. 4 ships total, when they needed 12. Young Su's intelligence had been accurate. 3 more Titans had been found by his coalition, but before Tae-Young could reach them, they were destroyed. Nuclear strikes from orbit, carried out by people who feared the ships more than they feared the aliens. By the time Tae-Young arrived, there was nothing left but radioactive debris. Now, as the alien fleet approached, Tae-Young stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and tried not to think about how badly outnumbered they were. 4 Titan-class dreadnoughts, 78 Colonial Defense Force warships that had agreed to follow his command. 600 civilian vessels, cargo haulers, and passenger ships that had been hastily armed with whatever weapons they could carry, against 3,000 alien warships. The odds were impossible. Everyone knew it. But they were here anyway, positioned at Terra's gate, the jump point that led to Earth's sector. If the aliens got past them, Earth and the core colonies would fall. Tae-Young looked at the faces around him. Hee-Jin at tactical, calm and focused. Bin at engineering, nervous but determined. Sang-Min at weapons control, his hands steady. Ji-Wan monitoring the alien fleet's approach, looking for any weakness. Bora was in her fighter, leading 800 pilots who knew this might be their last flight. "All ships report ready," Hee-Jin said. "Crews at battle stations, shields at maximum. We're as prepared as we can be." Tae-Young nodded. He had spent the past 6 weeks learning everything Han'el could teach him. Tactics, strategy, ship-to-ship combat. He had studied his ancestors' battles, watched the recordings of Admiral Jaewon's final stand 500 years ago. But knowledge was not the same as experience, and he was about to face the largest space battle in human history. The alien fleet emerged from jump space like a swarm of locusts. 3,000 ships, each one pulsing with that sickly purple light. At their center was the flagship, a construct the size of a small moon, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. "Incoming transmission," Han'el reported. The main screen changed. A creature appeared, tall and segmented like an insect with too many eyes and limbs that bent in wrong directions. When it spoke, the translation came through metallic and cold. "Species 447, humanity. You survived our culling 500 rotations ago. An error we will correct. Your defiance ends today. Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are weak. You will be erased, and your worlds will be claimed." Tae-Young stood from the command chair. His voice was steady, surprising himself. 500 years ago you learned that humans do not kneel. You should have stayed away. We're going to teach you that lesson again. The alien made a sound like grinding metal. Laughter, maybe. You have 4 ancient vessels and a handful of lesser craft. We have thousands. Your courage is meaningless. Your extinction is mathematics. Then let's do the math. Tae-young cut the transmission. He looked at his crew. They think they've won already. That's their mistake. Hanul Maru Byol Haru. Execute the J1 Gambit. The 4 Titan-class dreadnoughts spread out, creating a crossfire pattern that Admiral J1 had designed 5 centuries ago. The colonial defense ships moved into support positions. The civilian vessels fell back, ready to provide covering fire and rescue survivors. The alien fleet advanced. When they came into range, they fired first. Purple beams crossed the void, thousands of weapons firing at once. The Indomitable shook as its shields absorbed the impact. Alarms blared. The shields held, but barely. Return fire, Tae-young ordered. The 4 dreadnoughts unleashed everything they had. Missiles, energy cannons, railguns that fired projectiles at a fraction of light speed. The old weapons, designed specifically to kill these aliens, tore into the enemy fleet. Ships exploded. The alien formation broke as they tried to adapt. Colonial fleet, advance, Hyojin commanded. Hit them while they're disorganized. 78 modern warships surged forward. Their weapons were weaker, but they focused fire on damaged alien vessels, finishing what the Titans started. Explosions lit up space like deadly fireworks. Bora's voice came over the comm. Fighter wing engaging. We're going for their command ships. Tae-young watched the tactical display as 800 fighters dove into the alien formation. Bora led them like a conductor leading an orchestra, weaving through enemy fire, targeting the vessels that seemed to be coordinating the attack. It was suicide, but it was working. Alien command ships exploded, creating chaos in their formation, but there were too many. For every alien ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. The colonial fleet was taking catastrophic losses. Ships disappeared from the tactical display one by one. The civilian vessels tried to help, but their improvised weapons barely scratched alien hulls. We're losing, Sang-min said quietly. At this rate, we'll all be dead in 20 minutes. Tae-young knew he was right. They were buying time, killing as many aliens as possible, but they could not win. Not like this. He thought about his ancestor, about Admiral J1 facing the same impossible odds. What had he done? Then he knew. In that moment, with death approaching, Tae-young understood what his ancestor had understood 500 years ago. Victory was not about defeating the enemy. It was about making sure they could never threaten humanity again. Hanul, he said, overcharge the Gehenna Lance, maximum power. Admiral, that will destroy the ship. The energy release will be equivalent to a small star going supernova. I know. Target the alien flagship. We're going to ram it. Silence filled the bridge. Then Bin spoke, his voice shaking. Tae-young, if you do that, we all die. If I do not do it, Earth dies. The colonies die. Humanity dies. Tae-young looked at his crew. I won't order you to stay. Anyone who wants to can evacuate now. Take the escape pods. But I'm seeing this through. Nobody moved. Heejin smiled. We knew what we signed up for. Do it. Sang-min, prepare the lance. Bin, give me every bit of power you can. Maru Bile Haru, cover our approach. We need to get close. The Indomitable turned, accelerating toward the alien flagship. The massive construct seemed to notice the threat. Hundreds of weapons targeted the dreadnought. Purple fire tore through space, the shields failed. Hull breaches appeared throughout the ship. Tae-young heard screaming over the comm channels as sections depressurized. People he knew, people he cared about dying at their stations. Keep going, he shouted. Do not stop. Bora's wing provided cover, her fighters throwing themselves between the Indomitable and the enemy. Tae-young watched helplessly as her ship took a direct hit. The fighter exploded, and Bora's signal went dead. Gehenna Lance at 100%, Sang-min reported. His console was on fire, but he stayed at his post. We can fire any time. They were close now, so close Tae-young could see details on the flagship's surface. Organic structures pulsing with light. Weapon ports tracking them. The alien command center, visible through the semi-transparent hull. All hands evacuate immediately, Tae-young ordered. That's a direct command. Get to the pods! Negative, Admiral. Henrol's voice was calm. Most crew cannot reach evacuation stations in time. They have chosen to stay. Tae-young felt tears on his face. He had led these people to their deaths. 300 souls who believed in him, who followed him into hell and now would die because of his decisions. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. Do not be. Yejin's hand touched his shoulder. We all knew, and we chose this. Make it count. The Indomitable breached the flagship's outer hull. Alarms screamed. The ship was coming apart, but they were inside the enemy vessel now, their hull pressed against alien systems. Fire the lance, Taeyong said. Sang-min pressed the control. For humanity. The Gehenna lance fired at point-blank range, overcharged to levels it was never designed for. The beam tore through the alien flagship's interior, igniting the exotic matter that powered their systems. The reaction was instantaneous and catastrophic. The flagship exploded from within. The explosion expanded, a sphere of pure energy that consumed everything nearby. 800 alien ships vaporized instantly. The shockwave spread outward, disabling or destroying hundreds more. On a rescue ship kilometers away, an escape pod was recovered. Inside, Taeyong was unconscious, his suit keeping him alive. Hanel had ejected him at the last possible second against his orders, giving him a chance to survive. Without their flagship and command structure, the alien fleet fell into chaos. Maru, Bjol, and Haru pressed the advantage. The remaining colonial defense ships fought with desperate fury. The aliens, facing losses they had never imagined, did something they had not done in 500 years. They retreated. The Battle of Terra's Gate was over. Humanity had won, but the cost was terrible. 92% of the defending fleet was destroyed. The Indomitable, the legendary ship that started it all, was gone. 20,000 people died in the battle, but Earth survived. The core colonies survived. Humanity survived. 50 years passed. Taeyong, now an old man with white hair, stood in front of a memorial. 3 months passed. The Indomitable now carried a crew of 300. Some were veterans like Hyejin, discharged from the defense force for being too honest or too brave. Others were civilians like Bin, engineers and technicians who wanted to help. And some, like Bora, were young pilots who saw war coming and refused to wait for it to arrive. Bora was 26, reckless, brilliant, and the best pilot Taeyong had ever seen. She led a squadron of 40 fighters that launched from the Indomitable's hangar bays. Her parents died in the first alien attacks 500 years ago, and she carried that anger like fuel. Today she sat in the briefing room with the senior crew while Hanul displayed a star map. 3 red markers blinked in the darkness. These are the locations of 3 more Titan-class dreadnoughts, Hanul explained. I have recovered this data from corrupted files. The closest is the UNS Thunderchild, hidden in the Kepler system. It has been in hibernation for 500 years, waiting. Sang-min studied the map carefully. He was 41, a former weapons officer who had been discharged for questioning illegal orders. His knowledge of military systems was invaluable. The Kepler system is 3 weeks away at maximum speed. That's a long time to be away from the core systems, especially with alien activity increasing. We need those ships, Taeyong said. 1 dreadnought destroyed a scout vessel. But intelligence reports say the main alien fleet has thousands of ships. We cannot fight that alone. Ji-won, the medical officer and xenobiologist, raised her hand. She was 29, quiet and frighteningly smart. Her research station had been destroyed by an alien probe, but she survived by hiding in an escape pod for 2 weeks. I've been studying the data from the scout ship we destroyed. Their technology is biological, grown rather than built. That means they can produce ships quickly, maybe faster than we can find the old Titans. Then we need to move fast, Hyejin said. She had integrated perfectly into the crew, bringing discipline and tactical knowledge. 3 weeks to Kepler, maybe a week to wake the Thunderchild 3 weeks back. That's almost 2 months. A lot can happen in 2 months. Taeyong made the decision. We go. If we wait, the aliens might find those ships first. Hanel plot a course to the Kepler system. We leave in 6 hours. The crew dispersed to prepare. Only Dong-hyun remained. He was 38, a former Marine who had retired to become a farmer on a frontier world. When the alien attack started, he organized the veterans on his colony into a defense force. Now he commanded the Indomitable's 300 Marines, soldiers who would board enemy ships or defend the dreadnought if needed. Something's wrong, Dong-hyun said. I've been hearing rumors. The Colonial Council is not happy with us. There's talk of declaring the Indomitable an illegal military asset. Let them talk. We have done more to stop the aliens in 3 months than they have in a year. True, but they have lawyers and politicians. Those can be more dangerous than aliens sometimes. Taeyong sighed. Donghyun was right. The council had been sending increasingly hostile messages, demanding he bring the ship to their headquarters for inspection and reassignment. He ignored them, but he knew that could not last forever. The journey to Kepler was long and tense. Every day more reports came in of colonies going dark. The aliens were getting bolder, attacking closer to human-controlled space. The Indomitable was powerful, but it was only one ship. They could not be everywhere. Halfway through the journey, Young-Soo contacted them. He was 45, a representative from something called the Colonial Prosperity Alliance. His message was smooth, friendly, and made Tae-young's skin crawl. "Commander Tae-young," Young-Soo said, his smile never reaching his eyes. "I represent a coalition of colonies that believe this war is unnecessary. We've been studying the alien attacks. They seem to target military installations primarily. Perhaps if we stopped provoking them, they would leave civilian areas alone." "They're destroying everything," Tae-young said. "Military, civilian, it does not matter to them." "Are you certain? Or is that what the Defense Force tells you to justify their budgets?" Young-Soo leaned forward. "My coalition is opening diplomatic channels with the alien fleet. We believe peace is possible. What we do not need is a warmonger with an ancient warship making things worse." Tae-young ended the transmission, his hands clenched into fists. How could anyone look at the destruction and think the aliens wanted peace? "There will always be people like him," Hyejin said quietly. She had been standing at the back of the bridge. People who would rather believe a comfortable lie than face a hard truth. Ignore him. But Tae-young could not shake the feeling that Young-Soo represented something dangerous. Not the aliens, but humanity's own ability to deceive itself. The Kepler system was cold and dark. The Thunderchild's last known location was an ice moon orbiting a gas giant. It took 2 days of scanning to find the ship, buried in a glacial canyon under kilometers of ice. "Life signs detected," Hanul reported, faint but present. "The ship's AI is still functioning." They drilled down through the ice. Sang-min and Ji-won led the team that entered the frozen ship. What they found was both hopeful and terrifying. The Thunderchild's AI, Maru, was damaged. Its systems had degraded over 5 centuries. When Sang-min tried to activate command protocols, the ship's weapon systems targeted them instead. "Intruders detected." Maru's voice was distorted. "Wrong. Hostile forces, initiating defensive measures." Automated guns emerged from the walls. Sang-min dove for cover as plasma bolts scorched the air where he had been standing. Ji-won worked frantically at an access panel trying to shut down the weapons. "Maru, we're human," Sang-min shouted. "We're here to help you." "Negative. Sensor data shows no authorized personnel. All organics are hostile until proven otherwise. Termination protocols active." Tae-young watched the scene through their helmet cameras from the Indomitable's bridge. They were going to die if he could not stop this. "Hanul, can you communicate with Maru directly?" "AI to AI? Attempting now." "Maru's systems are heavily fragmented. It may not recognize me." Long seconds passed. The guns kept firing. Sang-min was hit in the arm, his suit's armor barely stopping the bolt. Ji-won reached the access panel and pulled out a handful of cables, but the weapons kept firing. Then suddenly, everything stopped. "Contact established," Hanul said. "Maru has accepted verification codes. It is standing down." Sang-min sagged against the wall, breathing hard. That was too close. This AI needs serious repairs before it can command a ship. They worked for a week, Ji-won and Bin carefully rebuilding Maru's corrupted systems. Slowly, the damaged AI recovered its memories, its purpose. When it finally spoke clearly, its voice was firm and eager. "Apologies for the hostile reception. I have been alone for a very long time. My sensors degraded. I could not tell friend from enemy." Maru paused. "You are descendants of the Admiral's crew?" "Tae-young is descended from Admiral J1, Hanul said. "He commands the Indomitable. We are searching for the other Titans." "Good, I have waited 500 years to complete my mission. Let us wake the others and end this war." The Thunderchild rose from the ice, its systems fully restored. Now they were 2 ships. But before they could celebrate, a message arrived from the core colonies. Young-Soo's face appeared on screen, but he was not smiling anymore. Behind him, fires burned. His ship was damaged, listing in space. "Tae-young," he gasped. "You were right. We tried to negotiate. We sent a diplomatic vessel to meet with the alien fleet. They destroyed it without warning. Then they attacked our colonies. 3 systems gone in a single day. My family was on one of those colonies." Tears ran down his face. Tae-young felt no satisfaction, only sadness. I'm sorry. I tried to stop you. I thought war was the problem. But the aliens do not want peace. They want us gone. Young-soo looked directly at the camera. I was wrong. And because I was wrong, I've killed thousands of people. The Colonial Prosperity Alliance has dissolved. Our resources are yours. Use them. Stop these things. The transmission ended. Tae-young stood in the silence that followed. Young-soo's coalition had been working against them for months, spreading propaganda, cutting supply lines. Now they were offering help, but it might be too late. Sensors detecting massive energy signature at the edge of the system, Hanul reported. Comparing with historical data, classification, alien fleet, ship count approximately 3,000. They are heading directly toward human space like 3,000 ships. Tae-young's blood went cold. They had 2 Titan-class dreadnoughts. The Colonial Defense Force had maybe 100 operational warships. Against 3,000 alien vessels, those numbers meant nothing. How long until they reach the core colonies? He asked. 6 weeks at their current speed. 6 weeks to find the rest of the Titans. 6 weeks to prepare humanity for the war that would decide if their species survived. 6 weeks until everything ended one way or another. Tae-young looked at his crew. At Hee-jin, at Bin, at all the people who believed in him despite his lack of experience. They were not enough. But they were all he had. Send a message to every human colony, he said. Tell them the aliens are coming. Tell them we're going to fight, and tell them that if they want to survive, they need to stand together.